Now I'm going to show you how I've mastered effortless rotation in the downswing whilst being a disabled golfer with zero flexibility, because you really do not need to be flexible to rotate effortlessly in the downswing. And this method I'm going to show you hasn't just worked for me, it's worked with every single student we've worked to get more rotation into the golf swing, even senior golfers like you're seeing here with my student who's 75 years old, who rotates way better than even I do. So I'm going to show you the exact information to be able to do this, and information and knowledge is absolutely key to be able to have effortless rotation in the downswing. I'm also going to show you the drills that I've done along the way to get me to where I am now. This is where a lot of you out there who are at your wit's end with practicing and getting more rotation, you're at the point of giving up. This is where my story is going to be brilliant for you, and like I said, I got the brilliant method to do here which will get you more rotation. So myself, disabled golfer, I have cerebral palsy, which for me affects more my left side of the body. I'm lucky it's a mild version, but it used to be a lot worse when I was younger. I could not get my heels on the ground. I used to walk on my tiptoes, how tight I was. Now, luckily, a lot better at that. Lots of treatment over the years, and golf actually helped a ton to improve it. But on paper, I should be the last person to be able to rotate in the downswing, because I cannot really have that much range of motion in my left side. My left side's more effective, and that's the lead side that I'm hitting into the golf shot, where I'm rotating into. But I can do it because it has far more to do with your golf swing than it actually has to do with your flexibility and mobility, like I even showed you before with my student who's 75, who's got unbelievable rotation. So this is where, once I got my swing in what we call the environment, I just started to rotate. And then when I added in rotation drills, once I got my swing in what we call the environment, then immediately my rotation was there. And this is what so many of you are missing out on there, is getting your swing into the environment. So let me explain what that is in detail, and then we'll get right to it. So having your swing in the environment to rotate, essentially all that means is you can add rotation into your golf swing and hit a good golf shot. Your body will allow you to do it because it's going to get you to hit the ball to your target. This is what so many people have wrong. They're trying to add rotation into a swing that is not in the environment. So what does that mean? A swing that will, when they add environment, will not get them to hit the ball to the target. So we're going to go through a couple of these, for example, but I am actually putting out a video at the end of this week on loads of reasons why you're not rotating in the downswing, which is reasons why you're not in the swing environment. So once you can get your swing in the environment, you'll start to rotate. So for example, a golfer here, let's say, who has a very vertical backswing like this. They're just lifting these arms dead straight up to the sky. This is not in the environment to be able to rotate. Because if they rotate from here, their club's just going to fly out in front of them. Rotation has a little outward effect. But if a player with a lack of depth up here, their club is almost already out in front of them. A lot of you are trying to get your hands dead straight up so you can drop it in the slot, but you're never going to be able to rotate to be able to do that. Club's going to get out in front of you. You're going to swing over the top. If you add rotation, you're not going to hit your ball to your target. You're not in the environment to swing. So for example, for that golfer, they would need to have more hand and arm depth. So that means having their hands and their lead arm more around them. So when they do rotate, the club now falls on path, dropped in the slot, rather than flying out in front of them. So that golfer will then be in the environment to be able to rotate. One more example, because again, this has all been explained at the end of the week in my next video. The golfer is swinging with an open club face. This golfer is not in the environment to be able to rotate, because if they rotate, that club face angle is going to be maintained. Their ball's going to go out to the right, not in the environment to turn. So for a golfer there, if they got their club face square to spine angle and then swung up and swung through, now they're in the environment to rotate, because as they rotate that club face, it's going to remain square to the arc. Got to have the right things in your golf swing to be able to turn. Exactly the same for myself. And if your swing isn't in the environment, like vast majority of you watching, you will feel like you're hitting a brick wall with your rotation. You will feel like it's your mobility and your flexibility stopping you. It absolutely isn't. So now we know what swing environment is to be able to rotate. Let's talk about me, how I've done it. Certain things in there which you can all follow, which will really help you. So first things first, my left foot at setup. I wanted to make sure that my left foot was in a place, because of course my disability affects my left side. I wanted this to help me. So what I did, I flared that left foot out. Because having this left foot at a flared position here, toes slightly pointing out, that has opened up the amount of range of motion I can perform now in my hip capsule, and this will happen for everyone. So it's far easier now for me to be able to rotate the hips. As you can see, if I flare that foot out, I'm going to be able to nicely turn and rotate into that left hip without too much stopping. And this is an amazing amount of rotation for someone who's disabled, but that's more because of where I've got my left foot at setup. Where so many golfers do this, they have their left foot dead straight, their toes pointing in front. Now you have more closed off the amount of range of motion you can do in the left hip capsule, to where now it's incredibly hard to be able to turn. So if I try to rotate as much as I can from that position, really difficult. That's where you start to feel pain. I can feel pain in my left hip socket. A lot of you will start to feel pain in your lower back. Really not good. You want to flare out that left foot. Number one, flare it out. That's what I did. You've got to do it. Don't care if it looks funny. It'll make you hit the ball better. Number two for me, it was club face. I was a golfer that used to massively open up the club face. I used to do this from when I started golf when I was 10 years old. I used to immediately do this, and that was flare open that club face, whip it on the inside, lots of forearm rotation. But like we just described earlier in the video, that's not going to get me to where I'm going to be able to rotate. I'd have to stall out my rotation. I would have to flip. So first things first, made sure that club face was square at shaft parallel. Making sure slightly toed down to where it's matching our spine angle. So for you golfers out there, make sure your grip is right for you. So that's where, if a lot of you have a weak grip, got to make sure you're making it a little bit more standard. You can make a weak grip work, but for the sake of this video, just make it standard to make it easier for yourself. Or if your grip is okay, watch out for that forearm rotation in your takeaway. If you're having a lot of this roll where your underside of the forearm's rotated to the ground, or my watch rotating up towards the sky, your club face is going to open. So just making that club face squarer at shaft parallel was one of the biggest things for myself to get that more rotation. And I tell you what, guys, so many of my students that send in videos on Skillist online, they'll have in their comments section where you describe your golf swing, a lot of them will say, everything, I've tried everything to be able to rotate and I can't do it. And 90% of the time, you see them here. Wide open club face. First technical swing thing you should look at, club face. No matter what your swing issue is, look at this, but for rotation, so important. Now the next step I personally did was something, again, we described in the earlier bit, describing what swing environment is. And that was, I used to be a golfer who did have the arms just dead straight go up to the sky. So no hand and arm depth, because I was a golfer like a lot of you out there who got up here and then tried to drop the hands dead straight down. So doing that is going to massively affect your levels of rotation. So let's say you do what I did, hands going dead straight up and then drop them down in transition. We know that rotation puts a little outward force on the hands. That doesn't go with dropping the hands. So you would prioritize dropping the hands to hit a functional shot. You'd have to slow down rotation, which a slower rotation will naturally drop the hands. But then the club has gone way too low in relationship to the ground. The swing height has dropped down into the ground. So then from there, you have to jump the body up to be able to get the club off the ground. I was a big early extender, massive jump staller back in the day. Again, I did start to think it was because of my disability. I could have been very easily, everyone could have let me off thinking, okay, you do that because of your disability. Wrong. No, I didn't. It was because of what I was doing with my golf swing. As soon as I got myself more depth, to where preferably we would want the hands to be at least over the ankles at the top of the swing, and then from there starts to turn, the club started to, yes, go a little bit out, hands went a little bit out, but they went down also, down and out. The club fell on path, and then I could start to rotate better from the get-go. So the next thing I did before we dive into these drills is I needed to maintain my hip tilt. So I was a golfer out there who massively bought into bumping the hips to start the downswing. Now, when you bump the hips to start the downswing, your left hip goes higher than where it was at the top of the swing. Remember, when we're setting up and hitting a golf ball's on the ground. We need to be tilted to the golf ball to be able to hit it. So if I bump my left hip, like we said, left hip bone raises, immediately makes the swing a little bit higher, but it also then tilts my upper body back. Extremely hard to be able to rotate whilst I do that. That's where a lot of players get horrendous back pain. So as soon as I started to keep my left hip more down, getting that pressure going down the round. Upper body stayed more on top of the lower body, kept the radius of the swing nice. And then I could just continue to turn through. This was the last little piece for myself. So just keeping that left hip down around, as you can see with the demonstration with this stick. And that really helped big time to be able to turn and to be able to open up. So, and then when I applied these drills, I'm going to show you, I became someone on paper who could not really rotate because of their disability, and someone who could rotate absolutely fine. Because it's about the swing environment, not about your body all too much. So guys, let me tell you these 2 drills that I did purely for rotation. So you need your swing to be in the environment to be able to rotate, like we described, before doing these drills. Otherwise, you are not going to progress at all. That's why you're not improving your rotation, like we've said. So, okay, first drill here, preset rotation drill. Again, favorite of the channel, talk about it all the time because I've done it a ton. So, and I know it works. It works with all my students as well, once you get in the right environment to be able to rotate. So, okay, what we do here, this gets you the brilliant and only drill that gives you the perfect feeling for rotation. So, rotate as much as you can. That's your setup position. So we're setting up in a rotated position. So hip rotation as much as you can, chest rotation as much as you can, weight 90% on the left leg, right shoulder down to right hip. So we start from this position, so really good impact, and then we just swing up and swing through. Really gets you springing through. Really important to look at your swing on camera whilst you do this so you can see how you're rotating, but so important to be able to get in that setup position correctly. I'll see so many golfers not going either to the end of their range of motion, so they'll be just kind of like half doing it, and then of course they're going to get to a half rotated position at impact, or they'll be great at their rotation with their chest and their shoulders, weight 90% like left side, but their right shoulder's far too high. If you rotate with a high right shoulder, that club will get out in front of you. You need the right shoulder to be down, helps you get through the golf ball, but it also helps you keep the club on good path. So here we go, and then just half swing up, half swing through. Really, really good one. You'll be surprised at how far and straight you hit the ball when you do this, that you'll probably have the feeling of wanting to go play golf like it. So the next drill here is one that I've most recently done really within the last 5 years or so, which really got me to that really solid rotation. And this, as you can see, is how I was demonstrating the hip tilt. So it's an alignment stick going through the belt loops, tiny bit on the right hand side, a lot of it coming out on the left. So I like this because one, hip tilt was a big problem for me, but also it really gives me a really good visual and feeling of having that left hip going back and around. So keeping the stick pointing down and disappearing around you is all we need to do to be able to achieve that. It's such a good drill. And I like to have a little feeling as well, like I'm almost swiveling my head through the golf ball as I do this, because that really opens up my chest, and my chest can be slow in rotation sometimes. So this really hits everything I want. Especially now, I'll still do this drill for getting that rotation. So stick down around, have a little head swivel going through the golf ball to open up the chest too. And boom, I really like it. The contact every time is just crazy, crazy good. It really, really is good. So another one, here we go. Boom, love it. So every time when I look on camera after I do that, I'm always happy because I can see myself rotating really, really nicely. So, like I said, these are only to be done once you've got your swing in the right environment. Now, I do have a full course on how to rotate, the ultimate guide to rotation in the Downswing, which is on Skillest. There's a link in the description. Just takes you to my Skillest site. The course is right there. It's my most popular course, and is one of the most popular courses on the site with all the coaches on there. Really, really good course. Very proud of the information that's in there. But also lessons with myself on Skillest, also down in the description if you want one-to-one of course. Like I said, tons of students. We've got everyone to rotate really nicely, of people who we thought they couldn't rotate. Of course, we can. Just have to see your swing, see what you're doing, and we'll make a good plan for you. So make sure, like we said, swing has to be in the right environment. I'm a golfer who shouldn't be able to do this, but I can. And that's where a lot of you guys absolutely don't have that mindset of just completely giving up on it. It's absolutely useless if you have that mindset. You've got to continue to go at it. Just keep doing it until you figure it out. That's always been my motto. Keep doing it until you figure it out. But of course, you can have my help, which will help you massively along the way. Even just the help of this video will help massively along the way. Just keep at it. You will do it. So if you enjoyed this video, Click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit that bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.